Going on to one of the well, I say before we mention, Titanic the musical and the other fantastic musicals you've done, there's one I read recently, Harvey Firestein's book, and the he mentioned La Cage aux Folles.
Uh,
Uh, and it's even more ironic because I was watching The Birdcage last night with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, and I was like, and for some reason there was a connection in my head going, why is something telling me to look up La Cage aux Folles for some reason? So I looked it up, and then I saw your name,
yeah,
and I was like, wow, okay, that is absolute fate. So even though in my notes here, I said, look, even though that you had written some material for the musical, you left the project, but it wasn't. You left it because you felt like you did enough. Could you could you just elaborate? What was the reason you worked on La Cage aux Folles in the first place,
sure.
and then what was the reason for leaving?
It was my show. Alan Carr, Alan Carr, who had made millions upon millions of dollars in Hollywood, and he was an absolute enthusiast. And I had seen La Cage aux Folles. And when I saw La Cage, I went to my friend Herman Levin, who had produced My Fair Lady. And I said to him, Herman, I've just seen a film, a foreign film, and it is a musical already. All I have to do is, is write it. He said, La Cage aux Folles, right? He said, forget it, kid. Alan Carr has the rights. Alan Carr, the great. I said, okay, so I'll forget it. And Alan Carr had the rights. Well, nevertheless, when I have an idea for something, I just write it just to keep my pencil sharp. And so I kept thinking about it, and and that was that. And I thought, okay, well, he'll probably do this film, right? And I'll just not be able to write it. And then I was in New York, and I was at a bar where we all used to go, and I had been doing some work there. And I went to the bar, and there was my friend Tommy Toon, who had directed Nine, is a dear friend of mine. And I said, "How are you?" He said, "I'm fine." He said, "But I'm going crazy." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, I've got this Tim, got Alan Carr, who has the rights to the Cage aux Folles, right? And Mike Nichols is the amazing Mike Nichols is directing. And I've got J. Preston Allen, the famous writer who's writing the book, right? And and it's just driving me crazy. And they're not making a deal. And I said, La Cage aux Folles, who's writing this? I would kill to do La Cage aux Folles. I would die. I just felt, it's not. He said, "Oh, you'd be great at that." I said, do me a favor. I'll do anything. I'll write a bunch of songs on spec. It doesn't matter. He said, "Oh, great." And he reached his hand into his coat pocket and he pulled out a copy of the script. He said, "Here, have a look at it and, write something." So I looked at the title of, of the musical based on La Cage aux Folles that Tommy and Mike Nichols and Jay Allen had been working on. And the title was The Queen and I. So I guess it's a take on the musical The King and I, but it's
Yeah.
The Queen and I. And I just thought that's the worst title I've ever read in my time. That's the worst title I've ever, I just thought it was awful. And I thought, okay. And I read it and I didn't get it. And I thought, I'm just going to do what I always do, which is to find a way to say, if this were my project, what would I do? So the first thing I realized is that they wanted to set it in America and they wanted to set it in New Orleans. And I thought, New Orleans is great. I've been to New Orleans because it's Dixieland music, it's New Orleans music, it's got great gay nightclubs and it's got great straight nightclubs. And it's just the perfect place. And and of course it's about a gay man, right? And I thought, I'm a jazz historian, so I knew all about all the clubs that sprung up on Basin Street in New Orleans. There's even a song, Basin Street is the street where the elite often be. And I thought, okay, well, let's see. So this is like, well, she's a queen, and she's a queen in New Orleans, and she's the queen of New Orleans. So I'll and she'll be the queen of Basin Street. Oh, wait a minute. And Basin Street is where all the clubs are, right? So she works in a club, and the name of the club is the Queen of Basin Street. So the title of the show is The Queen of Basin Street. The club is the Queen of Basin Street, and the main character is the Queen of Basin Street. And I wrote the opening, The Queen of Basin Street. And honestly, it was terrific. It was just terrific. And then I wrote a bawdy song that could be her big song for that main character as well. And then I wrote a love ballad for her as well. The bawdy song was Salt and Pepper. And she comes out as a chef. And it's salt my salt and pepper my pepper. Pepper my pepper, and on the way you can flambe my crepe Suzette. But baby, don't forget me in the kitchen tonight. Cool my quiche and heat my toddy. We'll gobble zobble yoni while nobody's in sight. Oh baby, don't forget me in the kitchen tonight. Well, hilarious. And so I called Tommy, and I said, I've written 5 songs, and I'm ready to play them. He said, right. So Tommy and Mike Nichols and Jay Allen came to I would play music at my mom's. My mom lived in New York. I'd play it in her apartment, and they came in, and I played them the opening. I told just what I told you. I said, it's it. And here's the opening, The Queen of Basin Street. And they went crazy. Because that film was so amazingly popular and so amazingly successful. The idea that you could have a musical based on that, right? Successful would be not only successful professionally, but successful financially. And and the producer was there, Alan Carr. And so they signed me up. I mean, it was, it was crazy. And what happened was that it was impossible for them to make a deal. Everybody, all of those people, the gods on Mount Olympus of show business, simply were accustomed to having an immense share of what the royalties might be. They could not make a deal. It was simply impossible. And so I can't go into the details of it, but suffice to say that there were a series of betrayals amongst them. And as a result, none of them could make a deal. And as a result, there was just me and Alan Carr and my score. And he was having great difficulty finding a director. And ultimately, he thought, because we couldn't find anybody, he thought maybe Jerry Herman would be a good idea for the score. And so I knew Jerry Herman, because Jerry Herman, who had written these wonderful Broadway shows, as you know, came from the same city that I came from in New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey. And his mother and my mother had been close friends. His mother was a magnificent singer. There's a social club at the community center where they would go. And not only that, but Jerry Herman's parents owned a summer camp that I attended when I was 7 years old. And he was there when he was 18. And I remember him. He was very kind to me. And I knew him. And I thought, it's the right thing to do. Jerry should write this show. And I'm very grateful for all of my work and all of my effort. I was given a percentage of the royalties. I would be earning money if the show were successful. Jerry, and that's what happened. Jerry wrote a brilliant score. The show made zillions of dollars. It was wonderful. I I was very happy that I was able to somehow at the beginning and all the way through get that show on a stage, whether it's going to be for just a small participation at the end or whether it was going to be my show. But I had I had done something that honestly was too good, and it created such a such greed among established people. And I don't mind saying this now because I don't care if the world knows. I mean, I was a kid, and that's show business. That's what happens. And I love the show. I love Jerry, of course, and I'm still very close to Tommy. You know, sadly, both Jay Allen and Mike Nichols have passed away by this time. Nichols was a genius. We all know that. And that's a typical story of sometimes things happen like that. And you know what? I've had my share of between Titanic and Nine and Phantom and Grand Hotel. I've had my share of hitting 2 Tonys, 2 best musicals, the film. I've got no complaints at all. Sometimes things go well and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. And it seems like as well, because when you mentioned Mike Nichols, when he first came on board and then he wasn't going to do the musical, and eventually he did do the film version or the
Yes, he did.
American, the film version. So it's a bit mad when you're telling the story. It's like, oh wow, so it all comes in full circle.
It all came full circle, yeah.
Yeah.
And everything, every person in that had to be instrumental in some way to get the show into existence and to get it on. And my role there obviously was critical and crucial because it simply, well, it would have happened in a different way or it wouldn't have happened if not for what I did. And it's not like I was taken advantage of. I received compensation for my contribution as well. So all's well that ends well.